Hey guys, it's K.D.M Sports on here again to share my opinion and thoughts on this old age debate. Who are the greatest boxers to lace them up? It's a question many of us boxing fans debate over, and I'm just here to share my personal list of greats. I put this list based on fighters in each weight class. Who are the greatest of each weight class in boxing? It's such an old sport, it's hard to rank. So I just did this based on weight classes, resumes, and accomplishments. Starting with the lower weight classes, Ricardo Lopez. He's a 2-division champion in the mini and light flyweight divisions. He was a Mexican boxer who I also think is underrated in a lot of boxing lists. He went undefeated in his career. Only blemish is his one draw. He was 51-0 with 38 KOs and has the record for most title defenses in mini flyweight history. 21 defenses of the WBC mini flyweight belt. Up next on my list is Jimmy Wilde, a real old school boxer. He had a record of 103 fights unbeaten, which is crazy. Some of these records from these old school fighters will never be broken. It seems almost impossible that any modern day boxer would be able to replicate a record like this or surpass it. Edir Joffre, Brazilian legend, is on this list as well, considered by many boxing historians to be one of the greatest ever. He has to make this list because of his resume. Look at the names he's beaten. He was an active champion, beating the likes of Ramon Arias, Johnny Caldwell, and Bernardo Carabello. Also, 2 razor-close losses to Harada. His record stands at 72 wins and 2 losses, along with joining an exclusive group of boxers to have won more than 50 fights by knockout. Next on my list is the great Willie Pep. Boxing historians know Willie Pep was one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived, with an amazing 229 wins and only 11 losses. And we don't even know if that's in fact true, because fights back in those days were not always recorded. He could have had way more. Old school boxers were so active, and Willie was one of them. He had amazing footwork and defense. You'd be amazed to see how skillful of a boxer he was in an era like that. He was so clever and innovative for his time. No one will ever forget his rivalry with Sandy Sadler either. Roberto Duran is next on this list. One of the 4 kings, he was a dominant champion for over 6 years in the lightweight division, with over 12 successful defenses. The resume speaks for itself in his overall career as well. He also only lost once at lightweight during his reign of terror. This one, I know a lot of people may disagree with me, but at welterweight I have to go with Terrence Bud Crawford. His resume may not be the greatest, but he dominated another great in the welterweight division without breaking a sweat in Errol Spence Jr. He has 7 successful defenses and stopped everyone he's fought at welterweight. Not only that, his skills is unparalleled. Reminds me of the old-time boxers, switching stances, positioning, and turning opponents and dominating them in the clinch, shifting punches as well as punching ability from different angles and ranges. He can do it all. Honorable mentions would have to be Sugar Ray Robinson, Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Felix Trinidad. This one I know most will agree, the greatest middleweight of all time, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, another one of the 4 kings, and one of the longest reigns in the storied middleweight division. 12 consecutive defenses of his title, finishing all fights by knockout but one. A granite chin, only being knocked down once in his career. He had great boxing skills, the ability to cut the ring off like no other, as well as being a switch hitter. He was one of the most avoided champions of all time in my opinion. Even the great Sugar Ray Leonard, I think, only took the fight because he saw an older and slower version of Marvin. By the time they fought, he was out of his prime. Marvin, to me, has one of the greatest resumes of all time. Honorable mentions would have to be Tony Zale, Triple G, Carlos Monzon, and Bernard Hopkins. At light heavyweight, I don't think you can put anyone above the old mongoose. Archie Moore, one of my personal favorites, a pioneer of the cross-guard defense. He also trained George Foreman to use this technique. Well, that's besides the point. He was a true knockout artist, holding the record for the most knockouts ever recorded in boxing history, at 132 knockouts. He had one of the longest careers in the history of the sport, from 1935 to 1963, and he was denied a world title shot for 15 years. Once he got the title, he dominated the division for a decade, reigning for over 9 years. He was known for being strategic and a great defensive boxer. His resume also speaks volumes to his greatness. Honorable mentions for me would be Bob Foster, Dimitri Bivol, and Roy Jones Jr. At heavyweight, this is another division that's very storied and the most popular division in combat sports. Let's face it, everyone wants to be the world heavyweight champion. Well, there was no greater champion than Muhammad Ali, the greatest of the golden age of heavyweights. He beat everyone in their prime in his era, even when he was slightly declining. Not to mention his ballerina-like footwork and impeccable speed, reflexes. He was unbelievable to watch in his prime, almost like a bigger version of Sugar Ray Robinson. The Joe Frazier rivalry will always be my favorite trilogy. I know many will ask, well, what about Joe Louis or Vladimir Klitschko? There's many you can argue, but when it comes to the combination of reigns and resume, it's undeniable who the greatest is, and that's Muhammad Ali. Honorable mentions would be Larry Holmes, Joe Louis, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman, and Sonny Liston for me. This is my list of greatest boxers of all time. Thank you guys for listening to me talk about some boxing history. Hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to subscribe, like, share, and if you've got any opinions, as always, leave it in the comment section below.